The first and most fundamental point, for a camera to behave like a real one, objects must have realistic sizes. Incorrect scale leads to unnatural depth of field and distorted perspective. For example, I rendered this scene twice using exactly the same camera settings. In the first render, the scene has realistic scale, while in the second, the scale is unrealistic and the object's dimensions deviate from real-world proportions. To ensure correct scale in Blender, it's enough to make sure the dimensions in this field roughly match real-world sizes. The focal length values presented here are for reference only and should be treated as general guidelines. In practice, everything depends on the effect you want to achieve. The most natural focal length, closest to human vision, is around 50 millimeters. But in real-world use, a wide range of focal lengths is commonly applied. The range from 14 to 20 millimeters represents ultra-wide angles, most often used for landscapes, interiors, and dynamic scenes. These lenses add a strong sense of drama and significantly stretch the sense of space. Focal lengths from 24 to 35 millimeters are still wide, but feel more natural. They are commonly used in street scenes, on interiors, and panoramic shots. 50 millimeters is considered a standard focal length and is the closest to the human eye. It is widely used for portraits as well as for versatile narrative shots. The range from 70 to 135 millimeters represents medium telephoto lenses. They work especially well for portraits, help separate the subject from the background, and create a more cinematic look. Focal lengths above 200 millimeters are long telephoto lenses, mainly used for close-ups, compression of perspective, and achieving dramatic visual effects. We mentioned earlier that depth of field only works correctly when the scale is accurate. Here is a comparison of the most commonly used f-stop values in Blender. Very shallow depth of field, most often used for portraits and cinematic separation of the subject from the background. Moderate depth of field, most often used for narrative scenes where some of the background should remain readable. Deep depth of field, most often used for landscapes, wide shots, and scenes where everything needs to be in focus. Now I'll show a trick that few people know. In Blender, you can choose the type of camera by default. There are many options available. For example, you can select IMAX. To simulate real lenses more convincingly, it's helpful to add a few simple compositing effects. Basic effects that add a lot of realism include glare, grain, lens distortion, and sometimes a subtle vignette. Shots with these effects applied immediately look much more realistic.